another boom bap breakfast on Black Power Media. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and your host today, Kamal Franklin and Dr. Jared Ball.
What you shaking your head for, Kamal? I was excited. I was about to. It was like Ear Doctor said. It was about to be. I mixed what I like with a DJ this morning.
Well, I mean, me and the Ear Doctor have an issue with the reverb. I thought that was my reverb. When it just sounded so nice at the end of my name. Now he seems to be spreading it around.
Hey, spread love. That's the Brooklyn way.
Yeah, not always be.
Not really.
Not always.
That's a myth. That's one of those myths.
I agree with that. Spread gunshots. That's the Brooklyn.
Spread gunshots. That's the Brooklyn way for real. Yeah. What's up, good people? Greetings to all the remixers out there as well. Good to see everybody. Sister May in the back.
True.
Oh wow. Kim Brown is on her way. She is
I gave her the links. I was worried that I gave her the wrong links.
She said you did not give her the link.
I gave her the wrong links.
I guess she's asking me for the link, so therefore you must have messed up. Kamal sabotaging the whole setup. That's the Brooklyn way.
That's the Brooklyn way.
Setting people up, boy, all day. Come on down this alley.
I thought I was so good. I was so proud of myself. You know what I mean? I thought, I was like, I diligently found a link. I diligently, cut and paste and copied, and bam, I put the day Wednesday, Thursday. I thought I was
impressive.
Like, I'm all good in the hood.
So
I was going to make another. I was going to make another announcement, but I might have screwed this one up too.
Because
I don't know if I should make the announcement. That we were going to be on an additional platform simultaneously today.
Oh, right.
As the YouTube platform. Because I set that up personally. I personally set that up diligently, of course, again.
So is it happening?
We'd have to go check before I make the announcement. I did everything I think was in my powers to do, as I remembered as it was explained to me.
Why are we giving old man young tools?
So there is some overlap with that potential news because the platform in question is actually interestingly connected, and I don't think I have any of this on the run sheet per se. There she is, burn it down with Kim Brown. Greetings.
Damn, I tried. I thought I did it right. I did.
Did you try or did you lie? I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Did you try or did you lie?
Bro,
you set up here and told
accusations.
Bro. You just sat up here and told the people all kinds of lies. He said, "Yeah, I put it Wednesday, No, Carl sent me a single link.
I got the email,
and it was probably from yesterday, Tuesday's link. He sent me Tuesday's link on Wednesday. I said, "Okay, Kamal, I got you."
I would gladly pay you on Wednesday for a hamburger today.
Yo, why Jared look like a drug dealer from Harlem? Money making Mitch.
He do look a little 90s drug dealer. Velvet.
So it's a little chilly today. It's a little colder in the house than usual, but I also have my hip hop class tonight. So I was maybe getting a little.
Wait. Your hip hop class. What is that?
I have been a hip hop activist and educator for plus decades at this point. So yeah, I actually have a class titled "The World According to Hip Hop," and it's fascinating because the point of the class, from my perspective, is to teach the political world through hip hop history, perspectives, elements, etc. And what I'm learning is a lot of the work that I and all of us, some of us, have been involved in for a long time has gone for naught. These youngins, it's starting literally from scratch, pun intended, Mr. DJ, with what are the four elements? How did all this get put together? A lot of the history has been willfully, predictably disconnected from the young folks. So there's a lot of bridge building to get to some of the histories that and politics and arguments and struggles that have been going on for a long time that a lot of younger folks don't know about. So
why when he said that,
great.
I was thinking about that white lady who's like, now let me teach you hip hop dance. You have to move like this. You ever see that joint? Yo, that was crazy.
In 20 years,
I don't know why I would evoke that memory. I'm offended.
In 20 years, Eminem is going to be remembered as the godfather of hip hop, the founding father of rap. I know. Yes, I know that is a very sobering thought. But
did I tell you this? My daughter, who is 9 years old, and who goes to it's elementary school, but what do you call it in college? The majority white schools, something.
PWIs.
She goes to a PWI elementary school, and and in the car one day, she was like, "You know who the greatest rapper is?" And I was like, "Who? Vanilla Ice."
Oh
my God.
Exactly.
That's your fault. That's your fault.
That is your fault.
That sounds like insufficient daddying to me.
So let's have a little contrast there, Kim, because as I have been snooping and surveillance stating my daughter's text messages, I happened to see a text exchange with her group, and this is her peer group, without provocation. One of her one of her friends says something to the effect that Eminem can never be considered the best rapper of all time simply off of his whiteness. Hey. And my daughter responded and said, "That sounds like what my daddy says." And I was like, "Ah!"
Jerry,
so that's
I can appreciate that sentiment, but the fact that you so very casually shared the context of your daughter's text messages, that as a daughter, I feel that a little. Can my daddy get out my messages, please? If there's not so much trouble.
He probably responded. He probably jumped in there and be like, "You're right, girl."
No, that's the only thing I didn't do because I was too busy over here like this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hey, there you go, Jared. Come through. A lot of things have landed with the baby balls. I like that.
It's to your point though about we've gone. There is some acknowledged contradictions on the surveillance state of the household. So all we've really said is like, this is preparation for the real world. This is how the real state does it, and this is how you need to start to comport yourself when you text and all that other stuff. We are watching. But but I did say, look, you're still 16, and it's too much out here, and you need some help. So that was the deal. You want the phone? I'm in that joint.
Can I jump in and save myself a little bit?
Save yourself.
My daughter does know who Asada Shakur is, though.
Yeah,
that's
she
important.
Does know Malcolm.
Well, then then if she knows all that, Kamal, then I'm curious about her taste in rap music. Then how did she arrive at Vanilla Ice?
It's probably because I avoid rap music in the house.
Oh, okay.
But how did
I avoid it? I avoid the hip because it's like, there's too much explanations to tell a 6 or 7 year old about what's being said in the hip hop songs. But even the ones in the 90s and whatever. So I avoid too much of it in the house or in the car rides. It's kind of like something poppy. We used to do the Kids Bop thing, just to, all the explanations. But I worry that, sometimes it's too much avoidance because what her friendship crew listens to will be like the white pop music. And so that's the.
Yeah.
Do you all, speaking of the pop music, so one of the unofficial assignments I've requested from the students in this class is that they start on the discussion board to submit the music that they're listening to so that we can, exchange and compare notes. And are you all familiar with and some of it, I have to admit, I just feel really old and a growing conservatism because like Summer Walker, do you know her work? Anybody? Maybe the chat might know. SZA, is that how you say her name? I say SZA. It looks like RZA and Jizza, so I say SZA.
Yeah.
There's some content, and I'm in there blushing and like, man, this is some content. Nothing that we didn't hear growing up, of course, but you know, it's just interesting. I will say that some of the latest J. Cole that they've submitted is fire. I will give it, like, this ATM track. I don't know how new this is. Forgive me for sounding boomerish, but it's fire. Like, there's some, you know. Anyway, so one of the challenges.
What's your takeaway?
The takeaway. And thank you. What initially prompted that was that my argument was, from a few semesters back when I did this, was that I think over time the style and flow of MCs has become more interesting and complex and difficult. The content, not so much. But the style and the flow, I think, is way more sophisticated than we've, certainly back in the 80s. And I would even argue for a lot of what became hot in the 90s, even some of the golden era stuff. Now, the content doesn't, I think, hit some of those political high levels and you know, but even as the students argue to me that their generations no longer care, and this hurt my heart, that their generations no longer care about the quality of lyricism the way we did.
Yikes.
They're more interested in a vibe and having a, you know, a whatever. I still think overall, even though they're not saying much, I do like the flow. I mean, I like, they can definitely, I mean, J. Cole, even the, you know, even on these Summer Walker and SZA tracks that I was talking about, that I was more worried about the sexual content. That was like, oh, wow. But it's there's a flow to it that's very different, I think, more sophisticated than, you know. So on that level, I think there's been an evolution. I just think the context we're in has limited the content, the evolving content in a lot of that popular stuff, at least. So anyway, that's the takeaway. The takeaway so far. And some of people are asking, where is Kendrick Lamar? Has he disappeared? Like, is he not putting out music anymore? I don't know. I gotta figure some of these things out. I got a semester to work on here. Because they're like, "Who's your favorite MC?" I said Pharoah Monch. They were like, "Who is that?" And that's why I was like, it's just,
even back in the day when he was popular, people still would go, "Who is that?"
Who is that? Right.
I guess that's true too. Anyway.
Yeah,
that's messed up. Your doctor says Kendrick is about to drop. Sorry. Kendrick.
Oh, well, good for Kendrick. I stick with my old lady rap. I'm Outkast, I'm Redman, I'm Wu-Tang Clan, and I will remain those things. And again, I'm not opposed to new rappers or new offerings. I mean, this is the benefit to me of kind of being child free. Like, I don't have to keep up with this shit. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, y'all have to, because y'all children is listening to it and being influenced by their peers. Me, I don't care if the kids think I'm cool or not. I'll just be old and stuffy with my old lady Wu-Tang music. That's fine.
I hear you. The new thing that I've dropped on, not a new artist, but the music I've dropped on them, and I continue to say is top of the line, is Maimouna Youssef's latest work. Her latest work is just, you know, Rap God, Work, Back to the Money. I mean, these tracks are just bananas. So shout out to her and all, you know. So I still haven't heard somebody better than her yet, singing or rhyming. Good. Yeah, Kamau.
No, nothing. I'm keeping.
Anyway, yeah, doctor's ready to jump back in the mix.
Doctor,
in that Black History mix.
Hey, Kamau can't say nothing after Vanilla Ice, so just continue to talk.
I didn't say it. The kids at school.
We happy.
Your seed said it, Kamau. Your seed said it.
Hey, Jared, I would love to come to one of your classes. Please.
Hey.
You know what?
Huh?
That's my bad. Wednesday nights, Wednesday evenings, 4:30 p.m. That's when we get started. So let's work that out.
Yeah,
whenever you're ready.
My summer camp, they stopped doing their classes, and I missed it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna do it like this, right here on the Remix Morning Show. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and y'all tuned into one of the dopest morning shows. In case you don't know, now you do. Yo, check this out. Make sure y'all hit that like, that subscribe button, and that bell for the notifications so y'all can know all the new shows coming up. with that said, I want to give a little, since it's Black History Month, I wanted to go ahead and make sure that we give our respect due to different people that change the culture. So who am I going to talk about today? Let's get to it. No other than, I'm on my comedy thing right now. So no other than, let's give it up for Moms Mabley. That's right. Moms Mabley, better known as Loretta May Alkin. That's right. She was born March 19th, 1894, made a transition the year I was born, 1975, straight from Brevard, North Carolina. Did I say that right? Well, she's from North Kakalaki. I know I said that right. So she's been on the scene for a minute. She's began her career back in the 1920s. That's right, on the Chitlin circuit. In case y'all don't know what the Chitlin circuit is, that's where you don't make a whole lot of money and you go around and see your peoples and do shows. That's right. So she was on the Chitlin circuit, and then she was so big she made it to the Ed Sullivan Show, the Smothers Brother Comedy Hour. She was doing her thing for a while. I mean, she's pretty much was one of the first sisters out the gate that was out here doing comedy and getting on stage. At the age of 14 is when she started. She started traveling along with vaudeville style minstrel shows and doing her thing, putting out the comedy. She changed the whole game up because at first she was one of the first lesbian, as she says, one of the first lesbian comedians to come out and let everybody know that. So then she changed the game up and got into her old lady comedy, and she freaked it from there. So big up to Moms Mabley. Just wanted to give a big shout out. She's been in numerous films like The Emperor Jones, Killer Dealer, Boardhouse Blues, Amazing Grace, and she's got over at least 25 albums, comedy albums. So that's what it is. So go do your history on Moms Mabley. That's right. Big up to Moms Mabley, y'all. Now let's take it out of here and back to the morning show.
Moms Mabley was gay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I appreciate you including that. I wonder even if she would consider herself non-binary by modern day terms, because she did not, or when she was not on stage, she would dress masculine. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know that everybody knew she was a lesbian, though, Air Doctor. I didn't know that was known.
Well, back in that time, in their circle, they knew. But I ain't talking about
in the circle. But did everybody know?
She didn't go on air. She didn't like put it in an album or something.
Now they do. They tune into Black Power Media.
Well, she did now. What you talking? Who cares? If people know she gay now, did people know she was gay then?
Listen, Ear Doctor lives in the multiverse.
Listen, Kim,
she was around. She's been around for a long time. Like she was still performing and shit. I was like, wait a minute.
Even my atheists can agree to this. Energy never dies. It's science.
No doubt. Okay.
Okay.
Roger that.
I don't know nothing about that. When people say, oh,
wrong button.
Look at you pressing the wrong buttons.
People
say that to me as a way to say that there's a God. I'm always like,
hey man, I can't. I'm not going to try to convince nobody. Everybody going to find out on that.
I was going to say we'll
see.
We'll see. And
one day we all
because people always ask me, well, what happens when you meet him at the pearly gates? And I say, I was wrong. Can I come in? I mean, it's that simple. It's not going to be an argument. I'm not going to maintain the atheist line at that point. You know what I'm saying? This is not some, you know what I'm saying? It's not complicated at that point. Can I come in? I was wrong. My bad.
I agree with that. I just think I'm going to have more questions. I'd be like, dog, but what happened?
I got to get in first,
you
though, son. No, I got to get in. Then we can have the conversation.
I might not get in because I think I'm going to be in shock at first. I'd be like, you exist? And this is what you created?
I love how you atheists assume that y'all going up.
Well, don't we get to have a conversation first? I mean, does
that.
it have to be like before we even get to see the big person? The
See,
big woman or big
automatic.
man in charge? Or the big non-binary person in charge?
I
I got to get shit to hell first?
Y'all are optimists. I love that. I love that about y'all. That's great.
I want to be able to have a I think I'm old. A conversation.
I'm old. Listen to him. That's Brooklyn. In all the universe and its creations, Kamau is old.
Oh. You gotta give me at least 5 minutes, B.
Exactly. Can I get 5 on it? Can I get 5? Come 5. Just I got like 8 questions. 8 questions. Why you let this
God
happen?
did create Brooklyn too.
Why? True. What? I didn't say there weren't some good things.
No, I'm saying he created the context out of which you emerged into becoming you.
What's all this he?
Fully admit that.
What's all this he? What's all this
I'm
he?
just sticking with the original. Look, I'm sticking with the original mythology. I agree that I'm just going by that. I agree with you, Kim. Yeah. I'm with you.
I think I need a conversation.
And just to be clear, I'm not a Christian. I don't consider myself religious by any means, but I believe that I don't think that we just sleep in the dirt or, you just ashes sitting on an urn. To Ear Doctor's point, I believe that energy continues on, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But I'm hoping like I get to go do cool shit. Like me and my ghost dogs, we get to fly around the universe and go do missions. Like that's the shit I want to do in the afterlife. I don't want to walk around Earth.
Probably not.
Sorry, I know that was random.
Probably just dead in the ground. Probably just dead. Not even. I like the euphemism though. You said sleeping. It's like no, it's not going to be like sleep. You're just gone. It's over. It's done. You can't imagine it because we don't have the experience of it. But it's probably just like you're just done.
Well, people who have had near-death experiences talk about random shit.
Well, of course, they always do, yeah, because they're back here to talk about it.
Truce.
No one who's been when someone has been dead for a week, and then they come back and start talking about it. Then we got like some, and then I was doing this, dog, and then I met God, and God sent me here to do that, and then I went to this, and then I saw this person, and I saw that, and it's like I was here, but then I decided to come back in a body and come back. When that happens, then I'm like, I'm whatever church they make up. Whatever book they tell me to read, I'm down with it.
Sir, you have described Jesus. You have described Jesus's whole crucifixion or resurrection.
Exactly. That's what I need in modern time.
But speaking of the inexplicable, just real quick, and I mistakenly peeked in the chat and saw Anthony D asking me what I'm talking about. Let's be very clear. I think any real hip hop head and appreciator of the lyricism involved can distinguish between the quality of flow, and in fact, that has often distinguished itself as a category of emceeing, the flow, beat writing, etc., and the content, the political content. That's all I was speaking to. I recognize that's all I was speaking to. But anyway, that's it. That's it. I agree with Ear Doctor.
Stop getting distracted
by the chat and let's slap the map. How was that for some almost? All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Remix Morning Show here at Black Power Media. As we get into some news, Kim, anybody? Kamau, would you like to get us started off this morning?
No.
No? Okay.
I don't know about start. I think start is the inappropriate word. Let me back clean up. Let me back clean up around here.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a few stories here, and it looks like we have a ghost provider in terms of stuff on the run sheet. But I'll at least start here with something that I might have some exclusive follow-up for on Friday morning on I Mix What I Like, because I honestly I don't think I can say more at this point. But there are some fascinating developments that are far and that go far and beyond what has been discussed and covered regarding all this Joe Rogan and Spotify, and even this latest story about him being offered $100 million to leave Spotify by Peter Thiel, who heads up and is the main investor in Rumble, which is a platform intending to be a competitor to YouTube. So it's not likely to happen. I mean, there's a number of reasons why it wouldn't. First of all, Joe Rogan would have to break a contract with Spotify and would cost far likely more than $100 million. But for me, what I'll say now is that, one, I think it's fascinating to think about what is happening in this media landscape, because as this announcement was made, Peter Thiel also announced that he was stepping away from Meta, or formerly known as Facebook, so that he could concentrate on supporting right-wing politics and Trump's 2024 campaign specifically. And if folks don't know, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Honest with the shit. Like, I mean, yes, I respect that transparency.
Absolutely. And if folks aren't aware of Peter Thiel, it's worth a Google, and we're likely to have a much more, I think, fascinating discussion about him on Friday, as part of the show, at least on Friday, because there's some developing information about the what I'll just describe as some interesting connections behind the scenes. And Peter Thiel has long been involved in the virtual, digital, technological, internet world.
He
founded PayPal. He's a very right wing. I mean, he's done, in fact, I mean, there's a documentary about the scandal some years ago with Hulk Hogan and Gawker. And Peter Thiel was involved with all of that too. And I don't remember the details. The documentary was fascinating. I even tried to write about it at the time. But it's a fascinating, the point I'm really getting at is there's fascinating connections between the very extreme right wing, well-funded, rich right wing, the media environment that we are in, and pop culture and politics. And there's a lot of intersections. And with this Joe Rogan piece, there's a lot more to the story that is not being discussed. And I hope that we have a nice exclusive to really get into on Friday morning. But that's at least part of it, that Joe Rogan, it was announced, was being offered this $100 million, which is.
But Spotify is not letting him out of his contract at this stage. Spotify is more like, for Spotify, they're like, this is going to blow over, or it's actually going to increase your audience share, because now people who never knew you, who didn't care about you, are at least going to check you out. And so that, they're more interested in that, I guess, than anything.
Especially the way that,
machine.
Yeah,
of course. I mean, but guys, I talked about this on my show yesterday, and I kind of talked about this on Twitter a little bit also. I mean, where's the precedent for a white man talking racist on a big platform and them actually having some sort of punitive repercussions for it? People are talking about Howard Stern. Oh, Howard Stern, said all this shit, was on blackface and da-da-da-da-da. And when Clear Channel, now iHeartRadio, eventually did get rid of Howard Stern, Sirius XM Radio was right there with a $100 million contract waiting for Howard Stern.
Well, I don't even think, did they get rid of him, or did he jump ship? I think Howard, he left. They didn't get rid of him. He was like, I'm going.
But he left. Yeah. He left after Clear Channel kept suspending him, and they kept because he was syndicated, so they would dump out questionable parts of his content on the simulcast, right? So when they eventually suspended him for the final time, Howard Stern was fine, right? He still ended up being one of the highest paid people in media. And the same thing happened to Don Imus. The same thing happened with Rush Limbaugh. And all these people talking about, well, you can't cancel Joe Rogan and his free speech. Bitch, when the fuck was he ever in danger of being canceled? Even when the Spotify CEO came out and made a statement in regards to Rogan, the words that he used was, we're not going to silence him. What? He's never been in danger of being silenced. And for Spotify to play this, hey, we didn't know that he was saying nigga and homophobic stuff and transphobic stuff. Bullshit. You damn right they knew it. That's part of the reason why he got $100 million contract. So all this shit about free speech is completely disingenuous, because I have not seen white men's free speech be impeded upon, nor have I seen them actually face like losing financial, losing money behind it. Like Joe Rogan is straight. Like this shit is all popping right now. And he is sitting in his $50 million crib chilling, not giving a fuck. I assure you. But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, that's perfect, because that's part of the point that I'm hoping we get more into, because there is always this with people like Glenn Beck too, this soft landing that they're able to make. What's his name? The other one that left Fox News with the sexual misconduct. O'Reilly.
Yeah.
They always have these very well funded right wing out. Even what's his name? Zimmerman. You know, after he kills Trayvon, he gets a right-wing support network. They provides him a soft land. Rittenhouse, another soft landing provided by the right wing. So they keep getting that, and that right wing is extensive. And from my limited, narrow perspective, part of what I've been trying to argue is that for all the talk people keep saying about the ability of the internet to level the playing field, no, because for all the good work we all might be doing, there are these more well-funded right-wing outlets sitting there ready to soak up and provide a platform to whatever all this, you know, white supremacist nonsense they can get away with. And
their politics go way beyond the Republican Party. I just wanted to mention.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not.
No, that's absolutely
stop,
right.
Yeah, they don't stop at the policy level. They go all the way towards their Second Amendment, protecting those who defend it, putting out the narrative that supports them, like providing resources for them to keep it going. They challenge the Republican Party from the right and are largely successful in doing that, right? So as opposed to anything that we've been able to create, like you said, on the left, where not so much that I even think that they should be funding us necessarily, but you know, liberal money goes liberal, and that stops right there, right? They know they're here to keep that system going. I would say there's probably a deeper challenge on the right wing end to the system, as we've seen in terms of the January attack and other things, to the system coming apart than there is because there's left wing manifestations of changing the system at this particular point in history.
I mean, but the double standard is so phony though, right? Like Joe Rogan can literally have entire shows where he platforms a person who is going step by step about how Black people are genetically inferior. Imagine Black Power Media having a whole show, 3 whole hours, about how white people are evil and genetically engineered to be evil and inferior to us. YouTube would yank that bitch so fast. You wouldn't, BPM wouldn't be getting no check from Spotify. Spotify would deem that hate speech. But out of the mouth of Joe Rogan,
I think we just got cut now, Kim. I think we might have just got the plug pulled just off of that joke.
Dog, that's what I'm saying. But out of the mouth of Joe Rogan, it's listening to differing perspectives. You know, Joe is trying to get the whole picture. Fuck Joe Rogan. Anyway, sorry.
Look, some of us remember Joe Rogan from that radio news show. No, I mean before that. Broadcast.
That was a great show, by the way. Not because
I like the show.
Yeah, and I thought he was funny as a character in the show. I mean, I didn't know anything about him personally, but he was like a third-rate. He's like a third-rate comedian.
Yeah,
third-rate. It was never funny on his own.
No, the most I've seen from him on stage, to be honest, was, and at the time I thought he was doing a cool thing. Looking back now, I see it was just another white man attacking the brown folks, even if for a good reason, was when he went up and interrupted Carlos Mencia on stage and called him out for stealing people's jokes.
Oh shit!
And then literally brought up the comedian whose jokes Mencia was stealing. I mean, it's a fun YouTube watching. And Mencia is trying to defend himself, and Rogan's just up there literally like calling him. I thought that was gangster. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I wish the academic world, I wish I would have done that in the academic world. There's a couple people running around here with my stuff. I'd have loved to walk up on the podium and like,
giving a presentation. You didn't cite me, motherfucker. You didn't cite me at all.
Now, where did you get that? Where did you get that? Here's where I said it in 2001, motherfucker. Like, yeah.
Where's my footnote in your shit?
Right.
Because I catch him, I call him out just privately. But when I saw that, I was like, that's hot right there. But then who knew?
But I knew it from that show, and then the next time I heard of Joe Rogan was because he was an announcer for mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
And again, I was like who knew? I had no idea that this dude was going to be some cultural, so-called American cultural icon. It's like, based on what?
See, but I'm not surprised. So I was not aware of Joe Rogan's politics earlier in his career, but he hosted one of the most disgusting shows that ever come on television. So the fact that he's this disgusting of a human being does not surprise me. Fear Factor was one of the nastiest shows ever created. Oh, here we go. We have some cow testicles. You got to rub them all over your face. And I'm like, what the fuck? And, why? How is this entertainment? But anyway, but that was a very successful show. He was the longtime host. And I think that should have been one of our indications.
I didn't even know that. I had no idea he hosted Fear Factor. I barely knew what Fear
Oh,
Factor
really?
was, of course, but I had no.
I never watched it, but I did know he was
I just
there.
did not know Joe Rogan as you know, probably like a year and a half ago. And again, some of it is me because I'm out of any kind of real loop. But still, I'm like the fact that this dude who has and again, a little bit of the shows that I've watched, right? Like 5 minutes here, a clip there. It's not like he's an expert on anything. It's not like he has any particular insight. Like I think Kim's particularly right. He has these guests on who may ramble something and he may make some statement or whatever like that. And I guess he gets celebrities on. But other than that, you know, the fact that he's looked upon, or even these huge debates that are happening in mainstream media about this guy, it's like, you know, and again, I recognize that his audience is huge, right? He has this huge white audience. So
really big. But I wonder how I'm curious about the racial demographics of his audience. I don't doubt that the majority of his audience are white men, but niggas listen to Joe Rogan. Now, how many niggas? I don't know, but I know there's got to be at least a few niggas who listen to Joe Rogan. Now, are they kind of Kanye West, kind of goofy ass niggas? Possibly.
I think it's a range. Yeah. I mean, the only. I also know he's supposed to be friends with Chappelle, right? He's had Chappelle on a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting intersection of the politics, again, of the so-called free speech, or say whatever goes, or whatever you want to call it, where like, so that's that, you know, and then they, you know, it's like that's, I don't get it, but you know. Hey.
But that's why I like the good folks at Comedy Hype. I shout them out all the time for whatever reason, because their politics are too far to the right. But what I like about them is that they remind us of things that I wouldn't know. Like Chappelle's primary audience has always been white in his work, and this has been a major contradiction for those of us who actually like, you know, some of what he says and does and whatever historically.
Even for the Chappelle show. I felt
absolutely.
Like the Chappelle show, even in was
absolutely.
You don't think it was equally as big in our community though? Everybody looked at the Chappelle show.
But my point is
the demographics of people that show up to Dave Chappelle's lives, you know, to his stand-ups. You know what I mean? It is an overwhelmingly white audience.
And remember, the Chappelle show was co-written by his white colleague,
Neil.
Neil. So, and it doesn't. So, but my point is always, it doesn't matter how many black people like him or whatever media. It's how many white people like it, and how many of them are satisfied by it. Because you know, a lot of people watch Tyler Perry too, but his target is his. And Lionsgate even admitted this. His target is white communities. That's the target of his film. Oh yeah, Lionsgate said it, and we cited it in one of the because Lionsgate film, the executive producer said in the New York Times something to the effect that we distribute Tyler Perry films because he satisfies the niche. The niche of the white audiences that want to see black films. Mm-hmm. So this is what those audiences want to see. So yes, he was hot in the black theater world with black communities, but the reason that he got plucked from that by Hollywood was because white people said, "Oh, we'll enjoy this as well. We can make a lot of money enjoying this as well." So that's.
I think we all get the level of stardom is usually for black entertainers or artists is the wider your audience or the more you quote unquote cross over. Usually that's you know, that's when you get huge or big. You get to Kevin Hart. Like Kevin Hart, I see now is somebody. I don't know if he was always tame. You know, but I thought he used to be funnier, but he's definitely somebody who I consider like the quintessential crossover black entertainer for today's world, where, you know, he does employ black folks. He does do roles with black folks, but that comedy is definitely, or whatever you call those things that he's making, those movies or documentaries, definitely feel like they trend towards, I'm Mr. Universal. It's like he does a better job of what comedians used to try to do like we talk about Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy, when they reached a certain level in their career, and then they started doing like the kids films, or didn't we talk about The Toy or something recently with Richard Pryor? They started grabbing for the cash and would put themselves in any situation. I think
Pryor always regretted that film too, by the way. He felt bad about that. Richard Pryor regretted that film. Like he looked
he should have.
He should. But that's what, as a former colleague and I wrote about once, and this is why I know what I know about Tyler Perry, which at this point is too much because we produced some work on it, was that this is what we were talking about, was the Mantan Manifesto that was summarized in Spike Lee's Bamboozled with the white Jewish critic of Black culture and history from Yale University. I think the character was made to come from. And the point was, as you just sort of mentioned, Kamal, to get away with producing this anti-Black, this Black produced or Black predominated anti-Black media, you have to protect yourself from the criticism by doing things like hiring Black people, making friends with popular civil rights punditry and things like that, and making certain offerings and symbolic gestures. That's part of the way, so that's why, and the same thing happens all the time. When one of the first things Black people say is when they want to defend Tyler Perry is, well, he hires all these Black actors and directors and whatever, et cetera and so forth. But the overall damage isn't worth all of that, would be my argument. But anyway, that's part of the point. Yeah. Anyway, so I know we're about ready to get to another segment with the ear doctor. I know there's many more stories we have to get to, and there's even, if we have time, something I would be very much interested in having us watch a little clip of, because as I by the way, let me just say this real quick while ear doctors get so for the members and patrons of Black Power Media, we got another special for you all where I'm making an argument. Forgive me about the Bitcoin crypto stuff, but an argument about why Richard Wolff and the Bitcoin Socialist, even though they have not been able to appear with us here, have still offered us an analysis we can work with and make use of. So please do sign up and check that out. And thank you for those who already have. And the similar point I would make about someone else who recently canceled on coming on this platform, but who has made time to go on another platform to say some very wild things, I think, about race, and even in the 1619 Project that even I am myself a little critical of. But Adolph Reed went on Breaking Points the other day, and I don't know if anybody saw. I happened to see the interview, and I'd be very interested if we have time later this morning to play a clip of that and get your responses. It's a fascinating take anyway. So anyway, ear doctor, you coming back for your are we ready?
In case ear doctor is giving us a little
Perhaps
signal.
Not. Oh, we still got time.
A signal to go on to the
I thought we were breaking now, but anyway.
Check the private chat, Jared. I dropped something.
Oh yeah, I got you all set, Kim. I already got you set. Whenever you're ready. I thought we were ready to go. My bad, everybody. Forgive me.
I think your doctor's in the bathroom. Let's just be
okay. No problem. No problem.
With the door open.
That's what I'm smelling. Okay, now I'm clear. Okay.
Close the door, ear doctor. Jesus. I'm going to hear all that.
Can I get a courtesy flush, brother?
So Jared, I saw this story and immediately thought of you because, this is the second such story that we have seen where a prominent financial institution is partnering with a historically Black college to train up the next generation of data scientists and financial planners in order to shrink the wealth gap. And so let me tell you what this says in case you are not looking at the screen. So this is a press release from Coppin State College. Is it Coppin State College or Coppin State University, Jared? I know that I thought they had upgraded it.
I think I thought it was a university as well at this point, but it has traditionally been Coppin State College, but it's Coppin State University. It's Coppin State University. Says. Yep.
Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Coppin State announces strategic partnership with Charles Schwab Foundation and the Schwab Advisor Services. And last week, I think it was that we reported, was it Chase? No, it was MasterCard. Made a $5 million investment into Howard University to create a new study of programs regarding data science and how to reduce the amount of inherent racism that's in artificial intelligence credit approval processes, right? So weird to me that MasterCard acknowledges that the shit is racist, and instead of, stop being racist, they have to have a whole investment in trying to, as long as we have black people in here, the AI should be working right? No, it's working as designed. So let's be clear about that. So this is from this week, February 7th, 2022. Coppin State University has received a multi-year grant from Schwab Advisor Services in partnership with Charles Schwab Foundation to develop programs in financial planning and wealth management that will lead to meaningful impact in the lives of Coppin students. In wealth management, the registered investment advisor, the RIA industry, and the surrounding community. The considerable grant, which I don't think is actually named the amount, the considerable grant to Coppin State University, a historically Black public anchor institution in West Baltimore, Maryland, will establish registered financial programs for certified financial analysts or certified financial planners. The programs will provide faculty development and curriculum that will produce education pathways for students to explore careers in wealth management, establish a community focused center. Ooh, I wonder what that is going to be, Jared. Probably about 15 years away, but okay. A community focus center, and as well as create a minority registered investment advisor mentorship program. So Jared, given that this is again the second such announcement from a prominent financial institution, the intent to partner with a historically Black college regarding the advancement of Black students and Black people in this financial advisor field or data science field or credit processes approval field, I'm really curious about what your take is, because I'm skeptical of this shit. And I don't know if I have a right to be skeptical. Is my skepticism misguided? But anytime big white money wants to give little Black institutions money, I'm always like, I don't know.
So I was thinking of, this actually a version of this came up in one of my classes just last week. And my response to borrow from Kamal's favorite white man in his institutional analysis of media, Chomsky was right in his quick response. I remember in one of the documentaries I used to watch all the time, titled Manufacturing Consent. His response to a critic was about his analysis was, if he said to the person, pick up your favorite newspaper and turn to the labor section. And then there was this pause.
What's the labor section?
Right, exactly. And then his point was there is none. This is, of course, a business section written from the perspective of the business world. So I said to my students, so point us to the I forgot exactly what I said, but it's like, point us to the building of socialism and political economy. And they were like, huh? And I said, no. And I said, but right there is a brand new business school. So that just is an institutional quick summary. So this is the context in which everybody is working. These are not revolutionary institutions. They do provide some benefit. They do provide, to the point of the Mantan Manifesto and the Tyler Perry defense, they provide jobs to Black people. They provide some space where Black people can go and be relatively free from or indirectly, less directly affected by whiteness and, whatever. There are pockets of Black positivity and love and beauty, no doubt. I mean, I see it every day, even at in my own work. But the reality is all of that is happening within the context of a business arrangement. And that business arrangement is these institutions exist and are funded to the extent that they produce students and products that will serve the state, that will do good work. They're not producing revolutionaries. And as my former dean said explicitly to us, we are going to use the teaching hospital model in this school of journalism. And that is, we are going to take money from the biggest corporations and teach our students what they want us to teach so that they can get jobs he was very clear from the beginning. And of course, that's what happens in the business school and elsewhere. And to be also fair to even those I would be critical of in terms of politics or personal decision making, the faculty that are doing this. So when you ask what is going to come of this, some of it is going to be honestly faculty. I don't know any of the details, but it could be faculty are writing grants and creating relationships with the communities they need to do where they know they need to go to keep their own jobs, to buy out classes so they don't have to teach 4 classes every semester, so that they can increase their own really woeful salaries by getting a little padded payday as a director of a program or project, so that they can hire colleagues and other students and grad students to do work that they might not be able to do else. So a lot of these things are trickled down from these, and of course Schwab gets to say, look at us helping the poor Negroes get their money right. And this is the real problem, of course, with inequality, is that Negroes don't know how to manage their money, and we're going to now help them. So
well, Gerard, further down in the press release, it also indicates, it says the grant will also provide Coppin an opportunity to host an annual Closing the Wealth Gap Summit on campus and scholarships to Coppin students. I mean, because, that's what we need, more panels and forums about how to close the wealth gap, right?
And that focus on how to save your money and invest.
Oh my God.
I just think that trope has been around if just for 30 something years, and people continue to get away with it. Is like this, and again, it puts the issue back on the poor folks or the people with no money. It's like, why you don't have any money? It's not because it's capitalism. It's not because there's racism. It's because you just don't know how to manage it. You don't know how to manage that money that you have. And if we can teach you how to manage that money, but usually whatever little money you have is like investment. And these days, like that's the part of the crypto coin thing, is it's investment in that, or investment in traditional Wall Street investments and so forth. Then you can prosper just like me. And usually the person who's teaching that class has either got a job, right? Do you teach in that class, or they're on a hustle, to be honest, about how to get your money in their pocket, because they're teaching you they're giving you these symposiums, and then they'll give you the step 1, and then they'll like wet your whistle a little bit and say, again, if you only pay such and such and such and such, you can get this full layout of how to make your money work for you. It's happening in real estate, again, in investments, but that's been the sort of the snake oil hustle that has predominated the conversation around how do we get out of this mess we're in. It's this wealth accumulation that, of course, is never going to happen. So,
Jared,
well, at least the black key. I was just going to say, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I think it's interesting that MasterCard announced the amount that they intend to give Howard University, but Schwab in this press release, it just says a grant. It don't say how much the grant is. It just says multi-year grant. Yeah. There's no dollar amount, and there's no time term attached to it, which I think is just a good point. Something to note. So I'm guessing Charles Schwab was coming out less than $5 million.
That's probably true. But all I was going to say is that at least at that symposium, a black keynote speaker will probably make anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 for their commentary. So,
Jared, I hope it's you. I hope it's you.
No. When there's an actual budget, I'm never called. I'm on that roster of the low budget.
You're in the free shit roster. Who can we get to do this for free?
For free.
Because you're part of the revolution. I mean, the last thing is again, the creation of these schools are not revolutionary creations, right? These schools weren't created to teach liberation. For the most of them were created to teach us how to be like white folks, right? So classes on mannerism and etiquette were all part of the stew. And then the other thing was the sort of industrial trade, right? And again, not saying that some of that's not needed in terms of the type of economy we lived in, but it's about how do you become a worker, right? How do you become a worker for these larger entities? And that's the history of these schools, and they've maintained that history, right? Even doing upheavals, which have challenged their reign and so forth, they've been able to maintain that hold because they get that their bread is buttered on a certain side, and that's what they're interested in keeping.
That's it. So speaking of buttering that bread on the biscuits of them turntables.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hey
good?
yo, since Jared had his 80s drug dealer outfit on.
Yeah, Jared dressed like Nino Brown at the big meeting. At the big meeting.
Hold on, how big was that phone again? Can you put that back up? How big was that phone? Yeah.
Hey.
Look
Don't
at
act like
that.
you didn't want one of those back
Big
in the day.
me.
Oh, hell yeah. I
Hey,
mean, I did
I had
have
to
a
go-
beeper.
I had to go put my 90s Coogee outfit on and shit. You know what I mean? So
You even put some ice on yourself. Some like
hey,
some
you
kind of-
know, the
you know what I'm
Rolly
saying?
Oh, wow.
man, you did
down to the
full.
socks. Now, but anyway, we're gonna go ahead and give y'all a Black History mix. Get y'all feeling right here, right now on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Yeah. Remix.
Beats by Nick Dean, DJ Heed, H for Dow, and SP. And there you go. Quick little break, quick little mix. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning Show. You know how we do. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. I was digging the graphics.
Hey, you know we had to step it up. It's 2022, I believe.
2022, so they say.
Hey, but real quick though, I gotta say this. What we wanted to do for Black History Month is, I know y'all know about going to Patreon and going to check out the 3 books that we dropped. Guess what? We about to drop it for everybody. Black History Month. Let's go ahead and drop it for everybody to see, because we got so many more coming for the Patreon members. So they're gonna get the first look at these pieces we're gonna drop, and then we're gonna drop them later for everybody else. So that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Roger that.
That Albert Kids dance. Yeah,
Word.
That's good. I like that.
Well, y'all
Right
rock
on.
out. I'll catch y'all next break. Peace.
See ya.
All right, all right. Thank you, ear doctor. Appreciate you. All right, Kim.
Yes,
It's
sir.
us. It's us. It's me
It's
and you.
us,
So listen.
Gerard. What's up?
So there
What's
are
up?
a couple stories. I would, if we could, because I have this. I would like us to check out this clip and get yours, and maybe we could even peek into the chat for their thoughts on this. I listen, and I admit it. I'm not even proud, but I admit that some of this is just petty. I don't even watch Breaking Points much anymore. And one of the first things I stopped watching whenever I would see them put out their segments was whenever they would do something on race, because I know how much they hate discussions of race, how much they hate what they dismiss as sort of, conservative identity politics.
So,
And
Jared,
they would
I'm
have
sorry. One
no,
moment.
please.
You have
Sure.
to tell me who Breaking Points is. I don't have a clue
Oh,
who you're talking
okay.
about.
So apologies. So Breaking Points is the show, as you'll see just in a second, of Cigar and Jetty and Crystal Ball, no relation.
Oh, see, noted. Okay, this is why I don't watch what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
Continue. Okay, go ahead.
So again, they used to be part of my attempt to get different news sources from the mainstream.
Yeah.
And I did watch when they were on the Hill, and I thought, as just getting some information about the daily stuff, they were all right. But whenever they would talk about race, I would start dipping out because their discussions were just painful.
Is Cigar, you have to tell me, is Cigar Southeast Asian? I'm just assuming based off his name.
His background is India, and we did it. And I read a story. I shared a story. I can't remember if it was on RemiX or I Mix What I Like, but on this platform, I shared a story a couple weeks ago that I had found that goes into his background. And one of the reasons why I thought it made sense that he would make these conclusions is that I don't remember the details, but he comes out of a very mainstream institutional with some like state relationship academic background, like a very conservative, like that whole my Indian immigrant family came here and made it big, so should everybody be able to, and with some minor flaws in the system, we can get this right. And all of this discussion of white supremacy, and this is sort of the point of this segment, all of this discussion of any immutable white supremacy is just misguided and fake identity politics. And then they, of course, they focus on the nonprofit world that wants to take advantage of this and get paydays for claiming race is a problem, blah, 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 blah.
Damn,
so,
Jared, you volunteer to listen to this in your free time?
No, so my point is, that's my point. Whenever particularly they would do something, like if they did a story on, Biden or Nancy Pelosi or the Republicans or, I don't know, something newsworthy, I might watch it. But over time, I haven't, don't watch at all anymore at this point. But I did see, because I guess of the algorithm that still happens, whether you're subscribed or not, that they had a recent interview with Adolph Reed about his new book, which I have read a good portion of because he had been scheduled to come on and do an interview with me, which got canceled, I think, the day of or the night before. And then he pops up and I see him pop up on here. So I was like, I'm petty enough to see what he has to say there that he doesn't want to say here.
So and plugging his book in this clip? Is he plugging his book in this clip? Okay, because I'm not familiar with his latest book. I don't know what it's titled or what it's about.
The book, and I should have had it right here. I should have had it ready, but maybe by the end of this segment I'll have it. The book is I want to say it's titled The South. As he says in this interview, and I'm not going to play obviously the whole thing, there's really just a clip of this I want to share. He says that it is not a memoir, though it is, it does take excerpts from his life to make points about growing up in the Jim Crow South, and what that does and does not mean in terms of race today. In general, I have often liked his analysis or appreciated his analysis, even if I don't agree with it. But this I found particularly what he says here, and I would like everybody to listen carefully, because Sagar, just listen carefully as he's talking and see if people pick up what I picked up. And we'll just play a little clip of this. He's just been introduced. He's going to respond initially to a question about his book and what he sees his book is saying that the 1619 Project got wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not exactly, well, the chronology is quite different because I actually started working on this around the beginning of the century, around 2002 or 2003. After, I think I mentioned this in the intro too, after discussions with a couple of friends who both have roots in the Deep South, one about a decade younger than I, one about 7 years older, and our recollections around the turn of the current century that our rough age cohort was going to be the last in the United States with any living recollections of what life under Jim Crow was like. So that much preceded the 1619 Project, but the sensibility is different, right? And one of the things that I've been increasingly concerned about in racial discourse in the U.S. in the last decade or so is the proliferation of a notion that nothing has ever changed, right? That white supremacy, and I should put it in scare quotes, is this kind of transhistorical demon, basically, that has the power to do things and to decree things in the world. And of course, that's one of the reasons that some people, myself among them, are less than enthusiastic about the sensibility behind the 1619 Project, right? The sense that the country was founded on slavery, the country was founded on racism, and I think one of the problems that's both a political problem and an interpretive problem is a shift from seeing racial inequality as being rooted in institutions and institutional practices, for instance, like slavery as a labor system, right? Mm-hmm. That's segregation or Jim Crow as a complex of institutions, structures, laws, and other constraints, to seeing it as all about the attitude, and so that racism becomes, the answer to the question, right, of racial inequality. And as historian Barbara Fields, my good friend, famously said, the way that people talk about slavery now, and you could say this about the Jim Crow era and sharecropping and whatever else, is that the point of slavery was to produce white supremacy, right? Not to produce cotton, rice.
All right, so I'll stop it there, and folks can check out, and I'm happy to hear any criticisms of my own response if people hear something different in the entire interview. But that's the starting point.
Gerard, I see why he canceled on you, because you was gonna eat his ass up. That's all it is to it. That's why he went on there with the white woman and the person of color, the non-black person of color, because he knew if he came on a platform like BPM and had to go tete-a-tete with Dr. Gerard Ball, his ass ate up. Jared, you would have ate that nigga up in 30 seconds. I see why he ain't come on here.
He's been on, like, I've interviewed him before. So, and I get it. Like, he's been on before. We've disagreed, on before. I don't, so even if we disagreed,
but was he talking crazy like that though?
I don't recall anything to that extent. That really, and as I said, like, this is why, as I mentioned before, this is the book, by the way, The South, Jim Crow and Its Afterlives. And I've said before, this is why he mentions in the book, that he refers to Malcolm X. He just says Malcolm X and other Black race nationalists. And I just, just that one line alone, like that's it for Malcolm, a Black race nationalist. Anyway, but yeah, but this idea that those of us who would be critical of this immutable white supremacy would not be aware, as has been argued in many different ways by many different people, that sure, you could even if you want to argue that the primary basis of or purpose of slavery was labor and the production of or mass accumulation of resources, whatever, the consequences of that still, for me, result in the same immutable white supremacy, whether the white supremacy was the cause of slavery or the response to slavery. At this point, the immutability of it is part of what comes out of, or is part of, that process. So that is demonstrable in data. that can be supported by data, as well as immeasurable or immaterial variables, so to speak. So and then the point I was saying, when just real quick, when I asked everybody to listen, is Cigar's constant, like, he's like, the whole time you hear him like, oh, oh. And I'm like, look how happy this dude is. Like, you should know from jump what you're saying can't be right.
Dog, already. No, but this is what I have a question here, Jared. I mean, so just from the clip that you played, is Reed arguing that racism no longer exists in these institutions, or that the racism wasn't already baked into to any institution in America, right? Like, I mean, I don't see how even in 2022 that kind of argument can even be made, when racism and race itself was codified in so many different ways, from laws to college admission to everything. Niggas, can you walk sundown towns? Like, I mean, racism has been baked into every single aspect of American culture and American life. So is he saying that that's done? That's over now, post Jim Crow?
One of the questions that I did want to start with was to ask him more or less this question. The book reads as if you are trying to talk to a white audience to tell them that racism has changed, evolved, gotten better, is not the same impact that it has always been, and that people have misunderstood even the way that racism played out in that historical moment of Jim Crow. Like, I'm not, so to the short answer to your question is, I'm not really clear what his argument is. I am only clear kind of what the vibe I am getting from it. So similar to that clip, when I read the book, the vibe is you're telling a white audience, because I don't feel like he's talking to black people, which is, again, my point about why, that being the platform where I'm seeing him, so I just wanted to ask him that. And if I'm wrong, he's definitely smart enough to clarify that. But that was the vibe I got. So I don't know that I understand everything he's saying, but the vibe I get is race wasn't,
What are the measurables? I mean, I'm just curious, again, what is the basis on which he's making this argument? Like, is this a data-backed sort of thing? Is he using metrics of education, home ownership? I'm just throwing shit out there. I don't know what, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this, so this is not based on actual empirical data. This is, like you said, vibes. He's given us his vibes on how he feels racism is, or is it the state of racism, whether or not it's improved or gotten worse, or whatever direction you think that might go in. In 2022, he's not basing this off anything. It's not based off levels of education, income, homeowners, like none of the usual shits that people base, I guess, success upon.
No, and that's why the interviewer, even in that segment that they do, asks him about this, is it or is it not a memoir? And technically it's not, but because when you're reading it, it's not an academic book. It's more or less sort of how he remembers and thinks about things, and interprets things. Yeah. So there's I'm just picking out one sentence here, so this might be unfair to him, but it's just, that I have highlighted. He says, I have never heard anything regarding Raquel, which doesn't mean that there were no such rumors about him. An effective hypo descent, the one drop rule, that one could appear as emphatically and unambiguously white as models. So my point is, that's what he's taught. Like, that's how he's like, this is what I've heard or what I've remembered, or this is how the one drop rule played out back then and it's playing out now. And there are these issues, the way he talks about, and this is why I'm saying I'm just not clear. Maybe I was reading it too fast. Maybe I'm just not whatever, but it's just like, it's just this that in other words, race and racism is more complicated than it's being made today, so that people can hustle some checks. That's kind of that's sort of the vibe I'm getting. So that's why he goes on there, and Kendall not Kendall, Cigar and Jetty is sitting there, giggling through the whole answer he's giving, because he's so happy to be hearing somebody black with authenticity telling him what he has always wanted to hear on these segments, that those of us who would make an argument around what actual critical race theory is, or raise issues about white supremacy. He's not in. We're passe, and we're so again, when you start off with the 1619 Project being described as making this argument about race being fundamental to the origins and white supremacy being fundamental to the origins and development of the society, they're always like, no, that's not it. It's not that simple. There are other issues going on. There's other things happening. And sure, there is. Well, I mean, I think there are.
What else is happening besides racism in every single aspect of American society?
Gender, all of those things that they are saying play equal and different roles. Something I don't. Again, I'm not really. I don't pay enough attention to get the details of their argument, but essentially, they just don't want to hear that race is and continues to be an issue or has always been an issue. And that's what this book does sort of argue from a Black Southern perspective. He's saying what you all think about Jim Crow is fantasy and mythology. And that's why you think today what you think, and you're all wrong.
Oh my God. Hey, who published this shit? I'm about to Google. How much you get paid for this? Who published this book, Gerard?
Verso Books, and Verso is I believe is a well-respected publisher, and Reed is a well-respected. I mean, I've been reading Reed, for years, and I don't, and again, even where we don't always agree, I've at least appreciated a lot of what he's had to say, but I just don't, I'm not clear what anyway, I'm just not clear what's going on here. So I was hoping to get clear in that conversation, but I'll continue to hope and hope on.
You as an academic, I think perhaps view this differently than I, because again, and you say that you respect his work, over, his body of work, etc. But when niggas start talking shit like that, like it's time from my perspective to discredit them niggas. Like, stop listening to them niggas, stop putting value on what them niggas have to say, because them niggas are here to lead us astray. Them niggas are here to get on white-based media and perform in the way that you describe to give comfort to white people and non-white people of color who are anti-Black and racist, that, hey, no, the niggas are the problem here. It is not racism. It is not America. It's the niggas who are the problem here. And here is I, a nigga, here to reinforce that worldview that these liberals have already about Black people and our lack of alleged progress or success in this country. Like, it's time to stop giving credence to these niggas in their viewpoints, because that shit does not advance our liberation at all. It just reinforces what racist white folks already have preconceived in their minds. But you are academic, I'm a shit talking broadcaster. I can say whatever, but I know you value different perspectives. I do not. I can assure you, I do not.
Up to a point, and then I definitely see your point, and I could also see that I have a blind spot around the fact that he wrote one of the legendary takedowns of people like Dyson back in the day. So like I might be going a little bit too far. Hey. But again, that's why I'm saying, like, this book was disturbing, and that interview was disturbing. So anyway.
Yeah. But, no, I can appreciate, the value in a debate between Adolph Reed and Dr. Jerry Ball. Now, am I going to tune into any program just to hear Adolph Reed talk that bullshit? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's a better TikTok video set waiting for me instead of doing that. But I respect you, Jared, because, you bring to light the shit that these goofy niggas be talking about. And I guess to a certain extent, we need to know what these goofy niggas be talking about.
I suppose. I don't know. Maybe I just got caught up in my own little. I don't know.
It's all good.
See. Hey, but listen, speaking of getting caught up in your own little circular spins and cycles of repetition and reverberation, we got the ear doctor back with us again. And we got another wardrobe change and everything. This dude is, man.
On tour.
That's it.
Got a different outfit change for every segment. Yes.
Hey, we gotta keep it fresh and provocative for the people.
That's right.
Anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go give y'all a little break. Let Jared have a little time to go find that book he was looking for. And
I did. I found it. It's right here.
Oh, I wasn't watching. My bad.
Hey, doctor.
I was getting my music ready. Anyway, all right. So let's rock out. Let's get to it, y'all.
All right. Remix.
right, let's get into it, y'all. Little mix, little history at the same time. Matter of fact, let me give a shout out, because you know we make history all the time. You know what I mean? So I want to give a shout out to this Detroit teenager that got suspended from school. And the local barbers in Detroit gave him an apprenticeship. And now he's working at one of the best barbershops in Detroit that do a bunch of people's hair, celebrities. So big up to him for making history. That's the way you get kicked out of school. Black Power Media, y'all. Let's go. One more person we want to give a shout out to that made some history. That's right. No other than Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. Not just Reggie Jackson, but we talking Reginald Martinez Jackson. This dude was the man back in the day. So look him up. It's that Black Power history. Black Power Media history. Go check it out. Yeah. And that's what it is. Get y'all into a nice mode. Let's get it back before we explode. Right here, Black Power Media. Let's take it back to our host with the most, Dr. Jared Ball. Burn it down, Kim Rack.
So, not that I have a problem with it, but I'm just curious the random selection of Reggie Jackson. Is there it seems like Mr. October in February, and I did a quick look. He's not born in February. I'm just what.
Well, he was known for doing this thing postseason. So as knocking him out the park. So they was calling him Mr. October because of how nice he was during that time postseason.
Correct. It's
okay.
So
Now,
see,
what
I dropped the little people so y'all could go do the history. You know, I ain't gonna do all the work for y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Clearly.
Got it.
No,
What
I do appreciate is that I did not know his middle name was Martinez all these years, and I looked it up, and I didn't know his father was half written here as half Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Which I will use as a segue to mention and shout out the YouTube channel that I've become a big fan of, Ramiro Sebastian Funes, who has been doing a lot on communist Marxist history, particularly in Central and South America, and did a whole bunch of nice stuff recently on the colonialism of Puerto Rico. So shout out to the Boricuan and to Reggie Martinez Jackson, Mr. October in February.
Hey, and before I get
born in May.
Hey, before I get out of here, I want to say that oftentimes we forget to acknowledge the people that's making history right now. We always talk about people in the past, but we got to also acknowledge people that's making history to this day. So that's why I had to big up that young teen that got suspended and made this thing happen and started doing hair in Detroit at a big barbershop. So big up to the people that's making history right now, right here on Black Power Media, y'all. Peace.
Thank you, ear
Peace.
doctor.
Thank you, Ear Doctor. Yes,
Appreciate that.
indeed.
Appreciate that. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So Kim, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
oh,
go
I
ahead.
mean, I did drop a story in the private chat.
Noise.
So
say,
just a
noise.
reminder that fascism had always been here against Black communities pre-Trump, and they continue to be here even during the Biden era. But this story is starting to get some legs here in DC. So this was as of February 3rd, but there's already been some movement on this. So the headline reads, "There is no watch list. DC police chief shoots down public information claim." So what's being alleged here is that former chief of police in Washington, D.C., white man named Peter Newsham, who is now, I believe, the chief of police in Northern Virginia. Let me say Prince William County, because I get a little confused because Peter Newsham used to be the chief of police in D.C., and Kevin Davis used to be the chief of police in Baltimore. And now they are both the respective police chiefs in differing jurisdictions in Northern Virginia. And I get them transposed sometimes, but one is I think Newsham is in Prince William County, which is again Northern Virginia. So a lawsuit has been filed by a local defense attorney, which says that Metropolitan Police began monitoring and keeping a list of people who were submitting Freedom of Information Act requests to Metropolitan Police to get different documents and stuff. And this lawyer alleges that Chief Peter Newsham, who was the chief of police from 2016 to 2020, was keeping a list of enemies, of journalists, activists, people who perhaps, which is alleged, that then Chief Newsham deemed unfriendly to the Metropolitan Police and to DC law enforcement. And this lawsuit says that requests filed under the FOIA Act by anyone on the list, that these requests were flagged and either delayed or denied, that these specific requests from specific people were being slow walked or just denied outright. And again, some of these folks were attorneys, right? No, not necessarily, not just journalists, but lawyers as well. And so Newsham has been named in this lawsuit. Last week, when this article was published, he didn't want to speak about it, but yesterday he actually did give comment and, of course, denied it. It is also being alleged that this list continues under current DC Police Chief Robert Conti, whom we have discussed here on this program. As a Black man, absolutely, you sending the police out on people in the district. So I find this interesting because a lot of people would say this is very Trumpian, keeping a list of enemies. But I would argue, this is a practice that probably absolutely predates Trump. It is probably happening in the police department near you, and this is something that, to me, is a different aspect of the laws that have been passed in some states targeting protesters, right? Allowing protesters to be hit by cars and no legal consequence would come of the driver if the protesters were allegedly blocking the street. Like, this is all different ways to suppress speech and information, and the ways in which police actually conduct themselves. And obviously, Metropolitan Police is not a stellar example of any police department. I guess none of these police departments are. But MPD was the victim of a cyber attack last year, which revealed dozens of officers who had committed all kinds of egregious acts were still being protected by the department and by the police union. And it was a very lengthy processes to even attempt to fire some of these officers, and most of them were not fired. So I think this is something worth watching if we have any other enterprising journalists in cities across the country. I would beg to bet that this is standard, right? This is absolutely standard. Is it going to be found via a FOIA request? No, but I'm sure that there are people working in these departments who are hyper aware of lists like this, people who are considered enemies of the state, Jared. This is basically an enemies of the state list. And again, not to say that the FBI and COINTELPRO and the CIA don't have similar lists exactly like this, but perhaps this is the junior varsity version of said enemy lists.
No, I mean, historically we know that the federal government through COINTELPRO and other versions of that have worked with local police departments. So they've incorporated local police departments, whether it was like the Bossy unit in NYPD working sub the FBI through involved with Malcolm's surveillance and assassination, or Chicago PD working for the feds to kill Hampton and surveil the Panthers and Mark Clark. So anyway, yeah, I mean, so that would make sense. But the good news in the article, Kim, was that even though Mayor Bowser did not deny that the list existed, the police have said it doesn't exist. So no story here.
Right.
It's all good news.
I mean, what's the point in denying it though, right? I mean, if we already know that this is standard operating procedure of American law enforcement apparatus for decades, we got the lie, Craig. We know.
Yeah, well.
We know. We see y'all at the protests. We see y'all showing up, taking pictures. You know what I mean? Like, we know. There's no need to deny it. But I am curious how the outcome of this lawsuit will react, because, you know, when white folks get involved, when it becomes a white on white thing, sometimes the outcome can become a little different. So I believe the defense attorney involved is a white attorney. So I don't know what that means, but I think it totally will have some bearing on the lawsuit. So I'm curious to see how this will eventually play out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point, although there are exceptions, rare as they may be, that even when white folks go too far to the left, I mean, they get, you know, whether it's, you know, like the more infamous Judy Barry killing where they blew up her car, or, you know, for her environmental work, or even more recently, like a lot of the digital stuff and the radical animal rights folks. I mean, like there's like pockets of white folks that even come from middle class backgrounds that are being put up under federal prisons. You know, that don't get really any attention, even from white folks, which is another kind of odd thing. But anyway, but I think to your point, yeah, when anyway, when white folks are involved, it often changes the dynamic and may change the response. So we'll see.
Yeah. And please keep in mind, just a reminder again, like how perilous and dangerous and fraught with all kinds of challenges from the state that organizing and activism work is. Same thing with journalism work. When you see folks out there, especially in places like DC, where everybody knows, obviously the police are surveilling big time, following people, posted up on the same block as where activists live. They park right across the street. Like, these police have been engaging in all these intimidation tactics and executing all the powers of the state against people who are in favor of our liberation, put their lives and their work out there to advance our liberation. So just keep in mind that this not the work what I do is not dangerous, but what people who are out there in the streets do is extremely dangerous. So always be keep that present. Let's just say.
So this is weird. I didn't plan this, but since I'm just noticing that we, in one of the previous stories, just a minute ago, we were talking about the 1619 Project, which included the work of Dr. Gerald Horne, who I did not realize until just this second that he was the author of this story that I had intended to share. And I had actually wanted to ask, because you actually mentioned, Kim, and I forgot to say this a minute ago, when you made the sort of the joke or reference to me debating Adolph Reed. Mm-hmm. I would much rather see him debate Gerald Horne. And I don't know if that's ever happened. I don't know if they've ever engaged, honestly. Maybe somebody in the chat would know. But if there was going to be one, that would be one I would want to see. If you're gonna,
no doubt. But you said Reed had confirmed.
No, that's true. Reed's spokesperson, assistant, whatever, published, whatever the arrangement is, who set it all up, And then he and I had been in direct conversation too. So I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I would have raised some questions and certainly done my best to respond. But if there was going to be an actual debate on this, I would much rather see it be between him and Horn. And I think from his perspective, he would, see that as a more worthy use of his time, if he was even willing to do it. But anyway, but in this recent piece here in Covert Action Magazine, published a couple of days ago by Gerald Horn, just some fascinating stuff here. Barack Obama's father identified a CIA asset in U.S. drive to recolonize Africa during early days of the Cold War. And just a little bit from this story, Horn writes, over the last decade, the U.S. has been quietly expanding its covert intelligence empire in Africa as part of a growing geopolitical rivalry with China. A new book published by Susan Williams entitled White Malice, the CIA and the Covert Recolonization of Africa reminds us that the likely consequences will be disastrous. She focuses mostly on the ties between Ghana and the Congo, roughly between 1957 and the coup in Accra in 1966. The deep CIA penetration of Africa was evident in the agency's apparent recruitment of Barack Obama Sr., a protege of Tom Mboya, an anti-communist, pro-capitalist Luo from Kenya, who had served as the African representative of the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions, which received covert CIA funding through the AFL-CIO. So some fascinating stuff here. It's obviously a lot deeper, and there's a lot more in this piece. We mentioned COINTELPRO. He mentions here Frank Church, whose church hearings helped expose COINTELPRO's existence. And then he talks about some leaders, including some that we may have a certain affinity for, who, he says, perhaps unwittingly, but ended up being put in service of the CIA. Most notably, he talks about people who have been already known to be exposed as playing such a role, like Frank Williams and Paulie Murray. But he mentions not only along with Barack Obama Sr., but and not Paul Robeson he's not considered, but Paul Robeson was a target. He says here that even precursors of Black Power had their limitations. Example, in 1961, when in a still startling episode captured on a film, writer Maya Angelou and others entered the United Nations building in Manhattan to engage in a stormy protest against U.S. complicity in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba of the Congo. So far, so militant. However, they chose to bar Robeson's closest comrade, Communist Party leader Ben Davis, on anti-communist grounds, unmentioned by the author, though it was the latter's comrades worldwide who were seeking to preserve Congolese sovereignty and Lumumba's life, both with these New Yorkers, whatever their good intentions, were incapable of achieving. Anyway, so I mean, it's just fascinating, and raises questions and I think interesting criticisms about leadership and our roles, and how any one of us can be again unwittingly put to the service of others, and more importantly, that the state then and now, even in conjunction, Kim, with the story you just shared, is constantly looking to interfere with activism here and throughout the world. So
it's confirmed that
anyway.
now, I mean, assuming the facts of the story are correct, so both of Obama's parents were CIA assets, basically.
Right. He doesn't talk about the mother in this one, but I've read.
I know, but I mean, there's been previous reporting about the mother.
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. It looks like it. It looks like it. So that's, I didn't really even think of it that way either. That's it.
Yeah, both of his parents are CIA assets, which makes perfect sense since Obama is clearly the fucking police. There we go.
There we go. Case closed, solved right here.
That's it. Listen,
you're welcome.
Right. I mean, if we're alive, or if one of his parents were alive, that you could sit down and someone could do an interview and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, since we're talking about people already departed, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's okay to draw these conclusions, and there's no reason to suspect that Obama's whole ascension was not part of some very long-term plan, right?
Oh well, now I'm very comfortable in that part because having read the work of Paul Street and Garrow and several others, I'm very and even in being in long time conversation and reading the work of the dearly departed Glenn Ford and Bruce Dixon, who Bruce Dixon knew him back in the day in Chicago, and they were among the first to warn us of Obama's rise back even before it really kicked off. That part is clear. There was a long grooming process. The extent to which the CIA was involved, my thing would be also, in addition to what you just said, is to just judge that. You could judge that in part by Obama's behavior, which wouldn't contradict any of that, given his involvement in global politics or in local politics as well. So yeah, I mean, like you said, he's the police.
He is the police. Everything about him says the police. I wish we had been a little bit more sharper. And I say we as a collective. I know there were lots. You said Glenn Ford was screaming about Obama at the onset, right? Like, no, not this nigga, no. But yeah, like I just wish collectively we had been a little bit more savvy. But Obama. It was all the optics. All the optics were matching, and then the Clintons were not matching. in that 07, 08, run. So God damn it. But we would have been worse. I don't fucking know who would have been worse off, to be honest. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, I think you raised a number of good points. And having been what I felt like was in a very insulated, small bubble of folks being critical of Obama from the jump, in part because I was working with Ford and Dixon at the time. And it just was so clear. And especially when he did the whole speech of there's no Black America, white America, Latin America. There's an email I still can't confirm. I can't find it, prove it, where I sent to my man Todd. That night, I sent it to him. I said, "This is the most dangerous man in politics." Like for him to stand up there and say this, and I didn't even know who he was yet. But I was like, they put him in this big platform. He's good looking. He's slick. He's smooth. And then he comes out with that slick talk and he hits us with that line. I was like, oh God, this is about to be a problem. No. But there was this huge, again, not only propaganda push, and even at the time, his media advisor, or whatever, gave an interview where I remember I used to use this all the time in class and presentations, where they talked about there was this intentional strategy of putting Obama everywhere, his image, his voice. He was just put everywhere with the specific point, they said, of even if you're a critic of him, by the time you have criticized what he said today, he's already said 10 more things by tomorrow that the world is focused on, that you would have to continue to chase down and be critical of, and you can't keep up. So like they had this well-groomed, so and very sophisticated and powerful messaging, particularly targeted at Black people, that got so many on board. And then I'll stop here. But in as you know much better than I do, in radio, I was even at just WPFW, community Black radical radio, and I got so many calls chastising me for playing criticism or sharing criticism of Obama in 07, 08, that I like it worked. Like I backed up. I have to admit, it was powerful. It was crazy. So yeah, anyway.
But the lesson was learned though, wasn't it, Jared? Like the next time that there is a chosen one, an appointed Negro, no, that nigga has to be put through the ringer on a variety of issues. Like, we're not giving no passes. We're not giving no Black wife passes. We ain't giving no passes for you showing up at the church and be able to sing Al Green. Like, no passes given. There are none forthcoming for whomever that next nigga might be. You know what I mean?
Well, here was one, not to use it. This that was about to be. Anyway, here's one that may have wanted to be next, or may still one day want to be next. Who is taking a break from politics to sort of maybe make another run at politics by being CNN's new political commentator. And I don't know if I don't know if that's her plan. But anyway, that this is a new story, and I'm wondering to what extent this is. I don't know. I wonder how well this would work, or to what extent this is a response to CNN's overall collapse right now. With the president stepping down, with people leaving, new people with Discover buying, right? Didn't Discover Channel buy him? Something like that. I don't know.
Who left? I know the president.
Well, the president,
because of an inappropriate relationship that apparently the entire New York media industry knew about for several years. And this inappropriate relationship was allowed to continue. And Jeff Zucker, I believe, allegedly gave his paramour a very high-placed executive position with CNN. And, some people, you know what? I'm not going to even say nothing about sleeping your way to the top, because people do that all the time. So let me not even make that's what it was. But who else left? I don't know anybody else left. Who left? I don't watch CNN, so I don't.
Well, you know what? I don't either. So I'm only thinking of the, and this is, I guess, old news at this point, but Cuomo leaving, and then I've seen in some coverage that the news of Zucker's behavior was exposed in part by Cuomo as some sort of payback for something. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it like that. But
so when I hear leaving, I think that, hey, I left to go take another job. This Bama, he was given an option, right? He was pushed out. Like, I don't think he left.
Sorry.
On his own accord. No.
He didn't. That's right.
You want to get fired, or you want to tell the people you resign? Okay.
Right. That's right. But either way, you got to go. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. The people being fired or pushed out between him and Cuomo, and then the ratings are dropping, and then they're also trying to do this CNN Plus where people think that they're going to pay for a subscription. It's like pay to listen to CNN now. Like, it's just crazy. It's so. But anyway, so I don't know if Keisha's plan is to get back into politics by sort of rebranding herself as a pundit, or if she's just taking a payday. I don't know.
I mean, this is part of the Democratic Jobs Program, is it not? Like, or rather the politician jobs program. Like, once you either lose an election or decide not to run for a higher office, hey, come be a pundit. Where I guess your tenure as an elected official gives you some sort of specific insight, even though when I look at some of the former elected officials specifically hired by CNN, if I'm not mistaken, Rick Santorum was one of them, the former Republican senator from Pennsylvania, who I think got up on I don't know if it was the AEI or one of those conservative think tanks, and basically said, like, America was a wasteland until Europeans arrived. It's like indigenous people were like, no, nigga, that's all the way incorrect. And he actually had to be forced out of CNN, I think, as a result of those comments. But just to give you an indication, that's the kind of company that Keisha Lance Bottoms is about to keep, honey. Like, picture me being proud of being on the same roster as a Rick Santorum or a Jonah Goldberg or a Brian Stelter. Like, I would be embarrassed, actually. Like, I find that embarrassing. That's just me from a media perspective. Like, really? Like, this is who you think I'm in company with? Like, ew. You got me and Rick Santorum on the same panel? Gross. Nasty. But I mean, that's standard, though. She's a corporate Democrat, and she's a Black woman to boot, so she checks a bunch of boxes. And they just hired Jonah Goldberg, if I'm not mistaken, who is a conservative dipshit from the right wing blogosphere or whatever. So it's like they always sort of quote unquote balance these hires. Like, oh, if we hire a Democrat, we have to hire a Republican, because that's the balance that they're looking for.
I guess, yeah, I guess so. Or if they're going to hire a Black woman, they got to hire a worse white man.
That's
is
right.
Is that how it works?
Yes. That is exactly how it works.
Kim, I don't know if you've talked about this here or elsewhere, but there was one thing I wanted to bring up with you in particular, because I know you're from this area, and I'm very curious if you have any thoughts on this. I have long, well, not long, but definitely left not only watching the league but supporting this football team. But when the new team name was announced for the Washington football team, the Commanders.
Mhm.
One of the things that I enjoyed watching in the Twitter sphere as people complained about it was that there were people upset at the name because it could be shortened to commies.
Yes.
And they were like, and as you know, as a wannabe communist, I don't have a problem with that. So I enjoyed them, but I enjoyed them, you know, I don't have, but what I did not notice was that the team was actually meaning this to be an homage to the military.
Of course. Yes. Uh-huh.
I somehow, again, I'm not paying enough attention. So the new Washington Commanders name is an homage to the military. So but I thought the whole point was to get away from slurs. I'm here all week, everybody.
Well done, Gerard. Well done. Tip Dr. Bo on your way out. Well, first of all, I can't wait to get my Washington Commies t-shirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got to get merch now. I don't even support the team anymore. Now I definitely got to get that.
But the whole notion of the military propaganda being embedded in the football team's new name was present there pretty much from the onset. Because I think there was a number of there was a bunch of weird names going around like Red Wolves, and then they even talked about the Red Tails as an homage to the Black Pilots. But I'm like, it's the military. No, that's okay. You don't have to do it. You don't have to name it that. So the Commanders. It's a dumb name. Now, to their credit, the uniforms look kind of tight. The uniforms look kind of tight. But again, and let me say this, after this franchise basically held a racial slur as its mascot, as its franchise name for decades, there was little to no recompense for the indigenous people who have been protesting long time about this, right? A lot of people in the DC area believe that part of the reason why the football team has been so unsuccessful for so long has to do with a curse being put upon the franchise.
Harjo.
Yes.
Yep, the Susan Harjo curse. Yep.
Yes. That an indigenous person, a chief, someone with the title. I don't know their title, but someone with the title allegedly put this curse on this franchise that, until you do right by me, ain't shit good gonna happen to the Washington football team. And that has absolutely been the case. And I don't think that the changing of the name to the Commanders is going to change that, for the simple fact, what did they do to give back to the Native people whom they use as a racial slur to make billions of dollars, sell billions of dollars worth of merchandise over many decades? And I wish failure for the Washington football franchise continually, because again, they made no efforts to try to make this right. All they did was change the name, which was important, but there should have been some sort of reparation there, to me, in my opinion.
Right on. And I also think it's meant to cover up the fact that we're still, I think, I hope to learn some horrible details about what Dan Snyder has been up to running this team. I think there's still some more information that has to come out about that. So I think this is meant to distract from that as well.
Well, check out the episode on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. I had Chuck Modiano, sports writer from Deadspin, on my show Friday. And we talked about this because I played some clips from the congressional hearing where former employees of the football team, all white, by the way, except for one, it was a Latina sister. But I'm like, if this is what the white women are saying that they were treated, good God, I can only imagine what the black women who may have worked there must have experienced. It's terrible. But to your point, Jared, I'm not sure if we're ever going to find out this information, because as Chuck reported to me, there is a cooperative, there's some sort of cooperative agreement between the NFL and Dan Snyder, right? So I think it called a cooperative mutual interest agreement is what it might be called. So basically, if Dan Snyder does not want certain information released, per the Wilkerson report, which went through and interviewed former employees of the franchise about, the toxic working environment there. If Snyder doesn't want this information released, the NFL is not going to release it at all, right? So
Wow.
the NFL operates wholly as a separate entity. It is a cartel for all intents and purposes. They do what they want. They are ungovernable. They answer to no one. There's no real HR to speak of. And if you have an issue, be it along race or gender discrimination lines, hey, I guess you're just shit out of luck.
Wow. Well, those who are in luck are those who helped us hit the 200 plus mark this morning on the live stream. So therefore, we get a special ear doctor mix to take us out this morning. I'll be back on Friday. Definitely everybody be back tomorrow morning for more of the Remix Morning Show right here on Black Power Media. Big shout out to you, Kim, to Sister May in the back, and of course our ear doctor and all the remixers in the audience. Ear doctor, let's reward the masses.
Take us away.
Let's go.
Hey!
You gotta get on the
Remix.
now. You gotta get on up now. Say it again, you're the same. Get on. Oh, moving. Don't stop like the hands of time. You gotta find your own way to stay.
Let's get it, y'all. Come on. Right.
I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it. I don't care what they say. I'm not about to pay nobody's way. Cause it's all about the dog in me. I want a freak in the morning, a freak in the evening. Just like me. I should work that brother back and satisfy me. Do you ever dream of candy coated raindrops? You're the same, my candy red. Tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want.
Once again, welcome out to Black Power Media. Thank y'all for tuning in to another Remix Morning Show. We're going to keep it going right here, right now. Let's go. Come on.
Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years. Tell me what you want from me. Take a look at what you see. Let me know if it's right here. Something you can have for years. Blackberry molasses.
Let's take it back.
The things that never change.
Sing along if you know it.
You gotta keep pushing on. The sun don't rain all the time. There's gonna be some heartache and pain.
This goes out to Joe Rogan.
Woke up Sunday morning.
We're doing this one for all the ladies.
That's right, y'all heard about his daughter's pop.
H-Town boys.
H-Town body rock knocking the boot.
For the 9-3, you know what I'm saying?
Big up to Dino.
Knocking the boots. G.I. Shazam, Dino.
We out of here today for the Remix Morning
They
Show.
gonna do a
Thank
little
y'all for
something
tuning
for
in
you real
once again.
sexy, like, you know what I'm saying?
We out of here.